Hey, how's it going, friends? This is Jorge Velderrain again. Uh, Today's episode is very special because I'm going to be talking to someone who worked in a production of the movie, one of my favorite movies of 2022, Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm totally sure that a lot of you guys have seen it. And if you guys haven't seen it, I'm totally sure a lot of you have seen at least the first one or know a lot of the projects James Cameron has worked on, Titanic. But here we're gonna be talking to one of the visual workers of Avatar: The Way of Water. You can go ahead and state your name for the record and say hi to everyone.
Hey everybody, my name is Erik Link. I am I guess it's super hard because like my field is always consistently changing.
Mm-hmm.
Went from motion capture specialist technician to technical animator to where now it's virtual production technician. But for the sake of working when I worked on Avatar, what I was credited for was a kabuki technician. Even though
Kabuki
I did
technician.
kabuki technician,
Mm-hmm.
or it's that name changed so many times because it was Kabuki processing technician, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like it's like processing sounds weird when you say that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a Kabuki tech. Basically, I provided facial capture animation.
Mm-hmm.
Although when I started on Avatar, I was a motion editor,
Mm-hmm.
but because of like the if you I'm pretty sure that if you saw the end credits, you saw like the thousands of lists of names. You can only be credited once. So it's like when you worked on that one with the production, you can only be credited on your last position. So I did motion editing and facial capture for Avatar: The Way of Water.
That's actually why I use the term visual worker, because I know that there are like so many levels of things that you have to do that you can't. Sometimes you're gonna have to be wearing more than just one hat.
That's true. But then
Mm,
again, also just the mocap industry or performance capture industry, which only became performance capture like because like people like I don't like the word motion capture, so we would switch over to performance capture,
mm-hmm.
which now I'm pretty sure it's going to be virtual performance production capture.
Yeah.
So like the whatever it's like anything. It's like they're buzzwords at the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I made the bodies move and I made the face moves. That's
That's a pretty
at
good
the
way
end
to
of the
put
day.
it.
Yeah.
So actually, that's actually going to lead us to the next question. And I wanted to ask you, with technology of animation, motion capture or performance capture, as we're now calling it, what are how do you stay up to date with everything that is going on in the filmmaking business in terms of technical aspects?
For the technical aspects, you'd be kind of surprised, like Hollywood, like the funny thing about like Avatar: Way of Water, and
Mm-hmm.
it's no jab onto like a lot of people, because like I mean, we did motion capture water, but some of the software and some proprietary tools, I have been around or have been around since like for about like 10 years, and it hasn't really. I'm not gonna say it hasn't been updated, but like they still run functional like the same. It's just like certain softwares or certain tools that get provided kind of add different layers, and sometimes there is new text they'll come in. For me, for my field, because it's always everly changing, because as I said before, like it's like it goes from mocap, performance, virtual production, or even a better consistent word is virtual reality, in which now we're also entering the aspect of AI animation, which is a new thing where it's just like, oh, I can just create my own 3D generated movie to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but like time will tell like what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like how I kind of prepare is I just basically just just be there for any like conferences, like stay up to date as far as like what's the new emerging like trends in technology. Like a great example is like the Unreal Engine, which is a video game engine, but
Mm-hmm.
like now is being mostly used in for film sets.
Mm-hmm.
Like majority of these companies are like this, like where like Autodesk or Epic, Unity, like all these types of companies are always going to sell you something and always going to be like, hey, like, we've added this feature. And then basically, if you don't know about that feature, you're kind of lost within like the field, but you will at some point have to, depending on like what you're doing. Cause I mean, there's people that'll just like press a button or just be like, I'm still animating this in like Autodesk Maya 2012, and it just still works because I've maintained this license and like for whatever the project that is. But like for movies, because like the amount of money that's spent in, more than likely like if you want to stay within the industry, you're gonna have to have like that, like I don't know how to say it like, but like in a nicer way, but you're just gonna have to man up or be up to the task of like you're gonna have to be constantly learning. Like there's no amount of like, oh, it's just gonna be, this is it, and this, and that's all it's gonna be. It's like, no, you're always gonna be learning. There's gonna be new techniques. There's gonna be a new way, and that's just kind of how I think there's like once you're in a technology and in the entertainment field, that's usually how it is.
Learning and adapting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned the fact that a lot of the softwares and techniques that you guys use currently actually have been around for a little longer than we would have expected. Because that reminds me of an interview I was seeing the other day. I think it was like a documentary on George Méliès, and somebody was asking if what George Méliès has done, whenever it comes to visual effects, layer on top of layer, has had any, is still like around whenever it comes to current, like modern visual effects. And the person who was being interviewed, I forgot who he was, someone who worked on a movie that came out last year. But anyways, he said that, yeah, like pretty much what we're doing is pretty much what George Méliès was doing in the 1900s. Is visual effects as of right now are just layers on top of layers and layers and layers and layers. And that's pretty much what, George Méliès was doing it. It wasn't a modern technique because he was doing it on celluloid, but it's still pretty much what you get, what the visual effects world is, layer on top of layer.
True. You're exactly true. That's kind of like, I mean, even on like our side for like the film, it's just like it's like layer upon layer. Then there's also like phases upon phases upon phases. Or like here's the lighting phase, here's a lighting test, here's motion, here's final motion, here's rendering this, here's render of this. Yeah. Then there's render with sound. There's render with sound.
and that's how you take 1,000,000 years to make a movie. Just
yeah,
rendering.
yeah. God, like I like it's interesting because like I think it's like because like especially when like work on the movie because like it's interesting because like I worked on like I started on the project from 2018 to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So about on average like close to like 3 years I spent on this project.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it's like up to 3 years of like all the work that we did. I think I only saw probably about like 10 minutes of final renders, and this was like in 2020.
In 2020,
like that's what we were, and then like that's where we were at. I was like, God, it's like
after
it's so cool to see.
Work.
3 years of work. It's just, and you're just like, yeah, and that's why like you like when you're like, oh, this is so amazing. It's like, yeah, like unlike most film studios, you like because of camera and the amount of money being put in, like they're able to get away with like 5 years worth of work for like one film. So,
especially because whenever it comes to a franchise like Avatar, you already have the pre speculation that people had because the first one was so successful. So now you get the time and the money just to make sure that the second one is going to work just as well as the first one. And I don't think a lot of people within the industry had the privilege to take that much time just to put in a single movie.
Oh yeah, you're 100% correct on that.
Yeah. And actually, what you were saying right now, whenever it comes to the technical difficulties and of working on a movie like this, I wanted to ask you, what was the most difficult technical challenge of creating the underwater motion capture, or what was the term of it again? Performance capture, animating the underwater scenes, and how do you animate the underwater performances? How do you turn that into underwater animation?
Okay, so I guess I'll have to explain like a little bit like some stuff with like mocap. So if you don't, if you're new to the channel and have heard motion capture, which I'm pretty sure at this point you don't, you've seen a person wearing the silly suit with the balls.
Yeah.
But basically, it's like those balls are trajectory points onto like the human body to where whatever the actor does, like that information is relayed onto like a character rig and what have you. So like depending on like I know I can't go into deeps into as far as like the software because like Lightstorm has like their specific things they like to keep quiet and being proprietary and like but for the starters, you're just assembling and taking all the information, and when it gets thrown on, the best way I can say it is like most of the information is provided is about 75%, and you're not going to have an instant one-to-one when it comes to like, I mean, you can say you can have an instant one-to-one when it's just like a human upon human,
Mm-hmm.
but like for the Navi, I'll just be straight up honest, like because they're so long and lanky, like you have to like add more stuff, or you have to refix like their skeleton, because like a great example is like when they like crouch down, they crouch down farther because their spines are a little bit more like, how do I say, when I say backwards, it's just like they're so long that the motion, like, oh, got a dog there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
No,
distracted,
that's
but
all good.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
sorry
like the
about
best way to
that.
say, yeah. He's like, he's interested. He's like, I want a job now.
I want to talk about Pandora now.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess like what I'm trying to say is that like like sometimes like you're kind of you'll have situations where you're fighting with like the rig and applying the motion where it's just like, it's like, oh, this looks awful, like, oh, this is not like how a humanoid would work, because like this is a longer skeleton than what is like a human skeleton. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to go into like different aspects of like the bones or the arms or the shoulder or the hips or the legs to kind of like adjust it in a way to where it's like, oh yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. And then you'll have to cross reference like the live action video as well to be like, does this match to what this is? Because Cameron, when he sees that, he's gonna yell at you if it's like, this is not close, this is off like by this much.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair with this, it's like I would like to say the technology was very helpful,
Mm-hmm.
but with the Uncooked Underwater mocap, because it was new, it was not easy by any means of the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of like hard work that went into it, and that's why I say you see those names, because there was a lot of work to need to get those shots done, and they were not easy shots. Like the one scene that I like, if you haven't seen it, this is somewhat of a spoilers. I won't explain the context of the scene,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say the scene, like obviously the emotional scene where like Natir, like, there is a major event that happens to where she's in tears, and Jake has to like calm her down, and she's like super emotional. She's crying. She's freaked out because of like something tragic has just happened. And within that scene, like when that was recorded on set, because they were still trying to figure things out when they were doing, because they thought like, oh, this will just be fine. So when like not only did we have to do motion, we also had like the dots on their face, and there was like, because it's like supposed to, we're emulating like the water, they had people like spraying like little mists of water to kind of give that experience, like it's like you're acting, we're providing like, what it would feel like if you were on this rock cliff and there's like water, so that you'd have like mists of water and stuff going on. And then not only too, like, because Zoe Daldana is actually tearing up, she's being super emotional and like, being very expressive with her take. But what ended up happening is like all the markers on her face
Mm-hmm.
started disappearing because of the water of her tears.
Oh my god! If I was on set with you guys, I would have panicked at that moment. Like, guys, we're missing the performance capture.
Yeah, no, nobody, like, this is like, because you have like a lot of film guys and a lot, like, there was nobody that like did that shot, and so like we were kind of SOL. So like I literally, they kind of threw the shots like, can you get this shot done? And I looked at it and I was like, I'll do the best. So I will say this. So that scene took a month of my life to rebuild.
Oh my
So,
god!
and yeah, it's so like it took a while. And there was a lot more like that people that worked on it for that shot as well too. But like, yeah, we had to spend so much time going frame by frame, putting virtual dots to basically like, we think it's here, to basically kind of do like a cross reference, because the markers are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because like anything is like, if in a situation, if this was a normal movie set, you'd be like, oh, we'll just do a reshoot and just reshoot that. And it's like, well, Zoe Saldana is in like someplace in such and such, and we have to get the tank proper or like set up. We have to do all this like 3 hour like process and get all the water and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it's not like it's like financially it's not feasible. So it's like
Hmm.
sometimes you have to work with what you have and try to like like do stuff. And the one credit for James Cameron, the one thing that he wanted on this whole film is like he wanted everything motion captured.
Hmm.
So like what I mean by that is like not only were the Navi motion captured, but so were the whales were
Hmm.
motion captured. Like
Oh,
those were actual actors doing stuff, and then they even have like prop like helicopters and boats that they would just move around that would just capture the motion.
oh,
So
okay.
which normally you'd be like, oh yeah, you just hand key that, but no, he wanted to basically like provide the excuse of saying like you, and which is true, is like you don't necessarily need to be like a like a top tier animator. You can
Hmm.
take already existing things and just have recording by any forms of technology
Hmm.
and apply it onto anything. So which is pretty admirable.
Yes, I'm actually really surprised that you told me all of that because whenever it comes to the Tulkun, I thought that they were animated based on studies of whales or something like that. But we're not gonna call them whales, of course, because I heard that he doesn't really like it when people call the Tulkun whales, even though they're an allegory for whales.
Oh yeah, yeah, like yeah, you are 100% correct on that. They are tulkuns. Like
Yeah,
they are weird shrimp whales.
shrimp whales.
I don't know how to describe because they have like the weird like little antennas. Like
Oh yeah,
they're
yeah, they
cool.
had the antennas. But yeah, for what it's worth, the scene in which Neytiri is crying on the rock, it was very well done. It was a very emotional scene, and I can testify for that because, as a matter of fact, I took my mother to watch Avatar: The Way of Water back in December, and when that scene was playing on the theater, she started crying like so hard. She was ugly crying in the middle of the movie theater. So well done,
Oh,
guys.
oh, thanks, thanks. Like I won't lie, I was like crying and like although it's just people are just like, oh, it's so emotional, but like I'm crying like, oh, it looks so good.
Like I'm
It's
so proud of myself.
so, so and I
That
made you cry, and I made you cry.
so actually that's another thing that I really wanted to ask you. After working for months and years, working so hard on a production like this, are you able to like sit down and relax and enjoy your work and just be able to absorb it in the big screen and just be able to enjoy it as much as you can while at the same time separating yourself from everything that you've done and everything that you were going through at the time that you were working and all of that?
Actually, yes. Like, it's like surprisingly, well, it
Hmm.
probably also the fact that, like, to be fair, like, I like the movie came out in 2022, and I ended up getting a new job. So, like, even though granted, like, two was like almost like all the way finished, while everybody was working on three,
Hmm.
but like seeing like it all fully rendered, and only two. Cameron's like likes to keep us in the dark a lot about stuff, and that's because he's kind of one of those like old time filmmakers where it's just like he's like wants to maintain the magician illusion, where he's just like, I want you to be surprised. I'm not going to tell you the story. I'm not going to like, well, he told us the story because we have to know the story in order to get like the emotions and the character details,
Hmm.
but for us to see it, because like I'll be honest, like from our aspect when we were talking movies, we're just like it looked like from our end is like, okay, this person gets captured and then they need to run away, and then there's a plot where it's like, and this person gets captured and then they get it because like there's like a lot of like this weird like A and B plot line, but
Hmm.
because we kind of had like that aspect of what was going on in the story, we
Hmm.
didn't know where it was going, like literally, and just like the other thing too is like for me it's interesting because I think the reason why I was like able to enjoy it more was because he cut out like a lot of stuff like from the movie. Like there's even like a sequence where like I worked on and like I spent like a good portion of like 2 weeks on it. I was like, oh, I can't wait for the scene because like I motioned in and like it was like so dynamic,
Hmm.
and it's not even the movie. I'm like, it's not even in here,
Hmm.
like it's gone.
Where did he
It's-
go?
Ready to go. So like, I'm assuming like just like it's like I would say what the scene is, but at the same time I don't know if it's like because I'm like, well, they could put that into three, so I
Yeah, yeah, don't
don't.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm like it's not there, but that's something that he could like easily splice into it. But I will say though, like there is like one scene that I noticed, and it's like funny because it's like, and that's kind of the interesting thing, like why I thought it was more entertaining because it's like because they cut so much from
Mm-hmm.
it, like it's interesting when you watch the movie, but when you worked on it for like so many years and you know like the basic story, you realize like, oh, they cut that scene out, they cut that thing out, they cut this thing out. And like one scene that I will say like that's interesting because it is shown in the movie
Mm-hmm.
is that there is like I'm pretty sure it'll be part of the deleted scenes, or maybe it might be already shown, but there's a scene with like Spider where it's like once he gets captured by like the military Navi,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're like trying to basically like hey, we need to become better, like we need to like we need to act like Navis, we need to be Navis because they're trying to hunt the Soli family.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider's like he's kind of stuck in this weird situation where he's like he's talking to his avatar dad, and he's like telling him like what it means to be Navi since he's human. And one of the things that gets like concepts that he brings up is they say like, oh well, we're avatars. He's like, no, you're not. Like he spends like he says like your language, and one of the things he says is like it's like you don't wear like you're wearing boots when we wear bare feet.
Mm-hmm.
And like that dialogue's not like presented into it, but it's funny because like they like because that dialogue is presented like in that cut scene,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a sequence where it's like they do like the montage, and like one of the shots starts off with like like them in the conference room, but the first thing you see is their feet
Mm-hmm.
because they took off their boots.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like that would makes more sense
Mm-hmm.
if you said that, but they kept that scene in there because whatever time restraints they said like, oh, it's not really necessary, it's just like it's just a nice shot with like their feet, but it's like contextual, it's like like that scene only exists because it's trying to show them that like the military guys are truly learning to be Navis. Like they're not wearing boots anymore. They're acting like like the Navi. Like they're
Like
walking
actual Navi.
barefoot. And yeah,
Actually, it's
that's
pretty funny. I'm actually like I'm having chills right now. I'm so glad that you told me that because that scene in particular, that scene that starts with a shot of their feet, really stood out to me because one of the things that I also noticed is that the fact well, first of all, the fact that the scene starts off with a shot of their feet, and also as the camera starts panning up, you can see the military lady looking at them with a look of disapproval. And she's like, I don't know, like these guys are going feral. Like, what are we gonna do? It's just a little something that I noticed on her look. I don't know if it's going to affect. Sorry, after some technical difficulties, we're back. But as I was saying, yeah, one of the scenes that really stood out to me is when Quaritch and all of the other Navi military guys are standing in the conference room. The military ladies literally looking at their feet with a face of disapproval because they removed their boots. And I don't know, it kind of felt like foreshadowing to me, like they're gonna have some sort of conflict because maybe she thinks that Quaritch and his guys are going feral, like they're actually turning into Navi. And I feel that Quaritch is actually having that internal conflict, that duality of, yeah, I believe this is the way things were, but now I'm dead and I'm a completely different being. Because earlier in the movie, he also says to Spider, yeah, I'm not that guy, so I don't really care if you throw my duck tags away.
yeah, no, I like it. That yeah, that's like, cause like like I feel like that was added because like I remember like there is like in kind of like the original like form, it was gonna be he was like more like trying to be trying to be like a father,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time like he's just like it's as I said this is just camera, like he probably just like he's the type of guy where it's like he'll keep on shooting stuff
Mm-hmm.
and like to get a better result. Like I think like one of my favorite like things, and the good things I gotta talk about this because like it's only for two, but like how like in the behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
is like they showed us like stuff that they worked on, and they had like a scene where it's like they had like it was like camera it was just like Cameron directing Spider for like the live action, like telling him what to do when he's like captured, and he's like attacking them, and he's like telling him to deal with this type of stuff and all of this type of stuff. And it's just like funny because like I just like on the behind him because it's like they don't edit out the audio because he's just like it's just him with like his own portable camera. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, kill them, yeah, tell them that that they're fucked up, and yeah, keep hitting, keep hitting that, yeah.
Dude, that's hilarious. I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's like I wonder if like they'll more likely not because it's like they have to deal with like distribution and stuff, but it's
Don't
like
worry,
it's like
they're saving that for Disney Plus. Don't worry.
yeah. I hope so on that. Like yeah, because it's like one of those things where it's just like you just get a good chuckle. It's like on that, but yeah, it's pretty interesting, and even like the beginning, which is a little bit different as well too, because like I won't go into context because I don't know like what the studio because like it's the beginning's a little bit different in a
Mm-hmm.
sense because like it was supposed to talk about like birth in a sense or
Mm-hmm.
what I was kind of told.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's like interesting is like it is like like it kind of showed like how like like the Navi like how like their life and how like birth for them kind of works
Mm-hmm.
in a sense like that's like G rated because like I
Yeah.
don't know but and then it had like a diagram of like this the science which is like more synthetic which is
Mm-hmm.
like on Quaritch is supposed to be like very violent very meticulously stronger and I was like and like so when they first showed it was like they don't even bother like doing that whole thing it's like that 3 year gap cut to where it's like oh Corge is introduced and he just wakes up his Navi where his is just like this like it's like you have like this duality of like science and nature where it's just like like both of them like one is like prosperity and the other is just like it's just like this is very synthetic this is very forced and just like unnatural
Yeah,
type
unnatural.
type of type type of thing where it was which is interesting because it also fits that whole archetype where he's just like it's like yeah he's Quaritch but is he though? Because he's basically a clone with his own identity that has his memories, but he doesn't necessarily need to follow off on these because he's his own person in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's actually where I think where the duality comes from because uh, even himself acknowledges that he's not that guy anymore, meaning the original, the actual Miles Quaritch. So I wonder if because he's a different being now, because if he's a synthetic being with the memories of a dead man, he's gonna start doing things differently. I mean, I wonder if because of that, I mean, he has the memories of Quaritch, but does he actually think like Quaritch in that sense? I think that's going to be a pretty interesting duality in Avatar 3, I hope. Because as a matter of fact, Quaritch ended up becoming my favorite character after the second movie.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like in the entire studio, that was everybody's favorite character.
Really? He's
Oh,
just a
yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting character to look at as well. Like, he's like, I don't know, he has a really interesting face.
yeah. Well, it's also it's like Steve. Like, I'll be straight up honest. It's like it was always like with the amount of like talent, like especially like Kate Winslet.
Mm-hmm.
God, like and the actor, I feel bad because he's an amazing actor. The actor that plays Tonawari. Oh, God damn it, Cliff Curtis. Thank God.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like Cliff Curtis, Kate Winslet is like Sam Worthington, and just with everybody there, and even the funny, just like it's still like John Clement, which I was hoping and like and also I wish I could just meet him and just be like, hey, can you just just like basically just do a one-off song and for Fly the Concords and just you singing about Tolkien's doing
yeah.
Tolkien things.
That's what we need. No, that
but
would be so
but yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but the thing with like, Stephen Lang is just like a super cool guy. Like he was like always on set. He was on his A game and just like he just loved everything. And I think that's also like why is like probably his character because it's like we have so many like good shots with him and just like just even that story is just like it's like you get to this point of like okay why is this called like Avatar 2 and I think the thing is like well you have a lot of like cool things besides like Jake Sully and all that but it's also introduces like another aspect where it's like you kind of have like now a polar opposite story where it's like you have Jake Sully like side, and then you have Korg's side where it's like a man who hated these things is now one of these things,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like this polar opposite of what Sam is, and like it's very interesting
It's like
duality.
the
Just
antithesis of Jake
yeah,
Sully.
so like yeah, but that character is like super entertaining. Plus, not only too, it's like also cool to see some of the old Colonial Marine style, like James Cameron directing, because I think that's about the closest I'm going to get for a Colonial Marine sequel.
Hmm. So speaking about Stephen Lang and other people that you got to work with on set, as well as other people in charge of animation, what interesting stories do you have to share about interesting people that you got to work on set, or talent, or anything like that, or even James Cameron himself? How is it like to work on the set of Avatar in terms of the work culture and the social interaction and all of that?
I would say like it's very like I I would say it is intimidating because like you just see just like a whole bunch of people and you just like see this big set and you're just like well and especially like the water tank you're just like whoa that is a gigantic water tank like that is insane even though like it's like there's like a whole bunch of safety commissions and whatnot just like there's just like so many amount of people there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's even crazier to kind of like working with like like seeing John Lando, which guy produced Titanic and produced Avatar, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
probably like it's like seeing him every day is like very very interesting. Because like if you ever see his videos, super nice, super chill, and like he always kind of remembers your name. I still remember like during the pandemic when we had to work from home, he called everybody at the office, and it was just super cool to have like, it's like one of the top producers in Hollywood giving you a call and just checking up. It's like, hey man, just want to check here, see how you doing, just like want to make sure you're doing well, like all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really
So
sweet of him.
yeah, so I mean like
You use
I mean
some
the
sort
fan,
of security, I guess.
yeah. So, and I mean, and only two is just like the big thing about the work culture is like it's very like
Mm-hmm.
family oriented, and also very everybody's just like it's like, I mean, you're gonna be working 12 to 14 hours days, and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to get used to each other. So,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, it was pretty crazy, and I mean, not only two, just like it's an interesting dynamic because you have a lot of new people that were learning like new forms of like this motion capture, and then people that have just been like, oh yeah, like I worked on my first film was Jurassic Park, or like you're working with people that of films like that have been in the industry much longer than you have, and they worked on films that you grew up with, and they're
Mm-hmm.
telling you how to do their techniques and like their creations for animation or motion capture. So it's like a very surreal experience is the best way I can kind of put it. But at the same time, also like got to chill these guys, and you're stuck with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then only two, we would have like cool little crazy little like department events. Like one that I did with one of my buddies like Mark Maruso
Mm-hmm.
is we like because we would do like long hours and like we would talk about like the great movies of old, and then we just got into this whole thing because we would spend like 12 hours and we would watch like I don't know if you've watched Red Letter Media
I
or
haven't seen it yet.
no. Okay, highly recommend. Like I know this is like me shouting out the stuff, but like I highly recommend Red Letter Media because basically they go into deep dive into like it's so good, it's so bad movie territory. So we created like a bad movie night, and so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you have like this big like aspect of like, oh, we're like talking about like like good movies and so and so, and
Mm-hmm.
then we would just basically be at the like take like the lobby of the studio, throw in like God, I'm trying to think of like there's obviously the room, but like Samurai Cop is a great example of a
Samurai Cap.
movie. Yeah, so like it's like very schlocky, like what the hell like type of movies, and
Mm-hmm.
just like just have a good old time. But then again, you're also just kind of learning, and which is kind of what the studio want. Like that's the kind of the other big takeaway, like through working for Lightstorm, and like what John Lando and James Cameron wanted is they wanted us to like learn how do you make movies. Is like not only working here, we want you to kind of flourish and grow, and it's like hopefully you become future directors or future like guys working in the entertainment industry.
Innovating and doing what you love.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, not only that too, they also had like Robert Rodriguez, like, because during that time, like when I was working, Lightstorm did a joint production for or it was James Cameron's script for Battle Angel Alita that he
Mm-hmm.
just kind of gave up and gave to Rodriguez, in which Lightstorm facilitated like visual effects,
Mm-hmm.
and with that like Rodriguez like basically taught us like various directing techniques and like how he kind of operates, and just like some tricks that he learned along the way that doesn't really talk much about. So it was like kind of cool to like getting like directors insight. And then the only two,
Mm-hmm.
they'd also provide various other materials. Like they're just trying to foster a relationship with future directors and animators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm actually really happy to hear that as a film student and as an aspiring director myself. The fact that you guys have that culture of not wanting to gatekeep any information, and the fact that everyone is friendly with each other, and that there's no place for arrogance or anything like that on set. It's really nice to hear, honestly.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, like like you gotta tell people what to do. That's the best thing, and the best tips you can, because
Mm-hmm.
like the film industry needs new artists, and just like it's like the medium's only just growing. I know it's like there's some aspects that saying there's not and so and so, but like it's like no, it's not necessarily about that. It's just like we have different ways of basically sharing our work into to various medias now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think I've actually thought about this a lot lately, but I'm really glad that the movie industry is growing so fast. I mean, unfortunately, we are gonna have to see some really bad stuff. It's inevitable because of how much the movie industry is growing. But at the same time, the fact that it's growing is just gonna lead to new stories, new technologies, new things that we haven't seen before, and therefore stories that we've never heard of before, never even imagined we could get. Because now with the technology that people like you have been developing, we're literally only years away from being able to create anything like without that much work, like literally years of work into it, you know?
So yeah, like all I can say is just gotta keep on kicking ass, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the main impact that you want the movie Avatar: The Way of Water to have on people?
I guess like it for me it's a little bit harder because it's like I for me it's just like I wanted to be part of this project because this is like one of these types of films where it's just like a little segue. It's just like the out of all the films I kind of grew up with, this is one that like inspired me because like I was in video game productions and got into motion capture through for video games, and this was like the film that basically kind of landline like, oh, what is motion capture? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about Avatar, there's no way you can get around it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that was one of my excuses. Like, it's like, what is motion capture? It's like, well, what's mocap? It's like, have you ever seen Avatar? And so like go through there.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of the things is just like I just wanted to work on the sequel just because it's like I love the first one and I would love to work on on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I also just like my impact. Sadly, I'm not a director.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just the in between guy. Basically, you're telling me what to do, and I just gotta take what I can. But like in the end, I just want to create material that has an impact. That, in the sense of if people like are entertained, get some thought provoking message out of it,
Mm-hmm.
or like like it resonates with them. Like, and I mean a great example is like one of my buddies. It's kind of super sad story, but his stepson ended up passing like 10 or 15 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he like one of his favorite films like growing up is like keep in mind this is like in his like it was like he passed away in his 30s, and he loved like Avatar, and like he would talk about it, like that was like one of his favorite films. And so when I showed him like to the premiere and just like showed him the Avatar Way of Water, like he literally just like it just like had this like big like flashback, and just like big. And it's funny because it's like you get this point of like where it's like how like it's just a movie, but it's like, well, like the movie has an effect of like certain things in part of your life or certain attachments. And so like to him, and especially even like the messaging for like, I don't want to spoil anything if you guys haven't said, and I know the movie's been out for about a while,
Yeah.
but there is stronger messaging about acceptance to a lot of things, like with death, and also just making amends, and obviously the big ones like family, and like that resonated to him a lot because like stepson meant a lot to him, and then just said him seeing a sequel, it just kind of blew his mind, just saying like, I just saw my stepson, like, and even though the movie's not about a stepson or anything,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like that's his first memory. And then that's the thing, is just like I think like I just want to basically entertain and provide you guys awesome content as much as I can. I mean, I worked on Call of Duty Vanguard, and all of the people were happy with that game.
A lot of people have,
So,
yeah, a lot of my friends love that game actually.
oh, they loved it. Like I got the opposite. A lot of people didn't like it.
Oh. Yeah.
Because like I see the internet, like, ugh. But at the point if as long as I can like provide something and like it impacted you in some way or some form, like that I've done my job,
Hmm.
and that's my big takeaway.
And I think that you're doing it greatly, man. Like, it's one of those funny coincidences of life. But as I mentioned earlier, I actually took my mom to watch the movie when it first came out in December. And my mom isn't really a big movie person. She goes with me every once in a while because I take her with me because I really want her to see a movie. And at the end of the movie, as I told you, when Neytiri is crying because Neteyam dies, she was ugly crying. And by the end of the movie, she told me that she loved the movie so much. She told me she didn't really like the first one, probably because she hasn't seen it like the entire movie. But she was really happy with this one, and she told me what she took the most away from this is pretty much like the interaction of family, the message of acceptance, and because my mom and I love animals so much, that's another thing that she really digged about the movie, is that the whole idea of having this really strong connection to animals and nature in general, and family, and accepting that and the process of that. She loved everything about it, and the movie came in a moment where I guess kind of helped her a lot, because it was about a week after we watched the movie, her sister unfortunately passed away,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I guess we were having a conversation, and we were just remembering uh, the experience that we had prior to her passing away about the movie, and she actually told me that the movie in a way kind of like prepare her for that. Same with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which is also a movie that talks about loss and grief and life and moving on from someone that you lost. So the fact
Yeah.
that you want to do all of that, like I said, I think you guys are doing it in a really really beautiful way.
Oh, thank you, dude. Like, uh, like making me cry.
No, dude, you made me cry during movies, so I'm just returning the favor,
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh my gosh.
dude.
Like,
Just right on the feelings, right?
yeah, hurts in the heartstrings.
No, I'm just waiting for my eyes.
No, I'm not like crying. Like it's just like I was just sweating out my tears around my eyes.
And another question that I wanted to ask you, and it also has to do with the impact of movies and the power of movies. It's actually pretty funny because my sister and I were watching Babylon yesterday, and it actually has like a few seconds from Avatar. I don't know if you've seen the film, but at the end of it, I don't want to spoil anything, but at the end of it, there's like this huge montage of some of the most important movies on history and some of the most modern movies, and there are a few seconds of T2 and a few seconds of Avatar, and I love that movie. It's just a little love letter to the power and the feeling of movies. And I wanted to ask you, as a filmmaker, as a person who's involved in these gigantic movies and these gigantic studios that keep coming out with some of the most important movies of the American industry, what are some of your biggest inspirations? What were some of your biggest inspirations when you were growing up, besides Avatar, of course? And what is it that keeps inspiring you to make movies as of today? What is it that gets you out of bed every single morning and gets you excited to go to work?
Yeah. Honestly, like I think it really starts like I mean, there is like so many amount of things, but I think it all boils down to I think Jurassic Park,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just as a kid, like your love of dinosaur, but
Mm-hmm.
seeing that movie for the first time just kind of blew my mind as far as like it's like whoa, this is like it just looks like a realistic T-Rex and just like the raptor, like just everything in that movie
Mm-hmm.
blew my mind as a kid. And mind you that like I was like oh like it's like that was like oh I just wanted to work on like I want like how can I see a dinosaur? It's all that's like it's like you can't. It's just a movie. Like it's you're like just like that effect, and that's actually kind of like my big inspiration for like visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is like when it came to movies, like I didn't like I've always heard the song and dance where it's just like you're not going to make it in the industry and all that type of stuff and all that. And then I just kind of hit my acceptance was just like, well, seems like there's a lot of like things and just like I'm not like mind you like I'm not the biggest like drawer. I'm not the biggest guy with with a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in that process of like learn like I can do better shots in a virtual 3D camera than I can with an actual practical camera.
Mm-hmm.
But what is like was my second inspiration to getting into films and just kind of let that out has been video games.
Video games.
And as I know that seems like kind of a lot odd. It's like like for my generation growing up on like the 90s where it's like it's like like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, the old PC ROMs, like like but it's just the craft of story that you have to tell for your narrative. And like with that, you have like also like I think like obviously for me like the first actual full narrative video game in I know there's like been other ones, but the one that I was able to play that basically just kind of gave me like a stronger narrative was Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of propelled me was like, okay, like, telling more of a storytelling, like, game,
Mm-hmm.
and just you're providing a narrative with the story sequences, and you have like, very movie aspects. And that kind of gave me more of like just the broader sense was like, oh, I want to work into video games. And during the 2000s you have that weird transition because like after like again another great movie Lord of the Rings introduced the first motion capture with Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like it's again one of those things where it's like, oh, I love like like this movie, like I love Gollum and all type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And how I got in was through like just basically it's like I want to go into school in the video games because I know I won't get a job in the film industry because it's just too hard and it's just too demanding. And it's just like they hire the top end artists,
Mm-hmm.
which is a complete lie, by the way. Like that's not the case. It's a little different than that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more so of just I took a class in my school of UAT back in 2008, and
Mm-hmm.
there was an internship for mocap.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I was like, I want a career in motion capture,
Mm-hmm.
and like mostly into like video games, in which that's what also you get like Avatar comments. It's like oh, it does like mocap,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like still that's film, and I'm more video games. I'm gonna get into video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my first gig on Call of Duty Black Ops 3,
Mm-hmm.
did some stuff for Star Citizens, and then because I lived in Los Angeles, like the funny thing is like Avatar 2, as much as it's a high demand film,
Mm-hmm.
it was the biggest production in Hollywood. Like I would not be surprised if you go to Los Angeles and you ask like how many people worked on Avatar, and the way I would be like, oh yeah, I worked on it. Like you probably like see like be in a room of like people and just like I wouldn't be surprised if 50% of the people within Hollywood have worked on that film.
Mm-hmm.
But through that, it just kind of taught me that like video games and film are universally the same. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's only becoming more apparent, and you're seeing it now where it's like now games are being adapted into movies, and like hopefully well. Like I say that because like The Last of Us on HBO did a really good job. We got next week we got Super Mario Brothers second attempt at a film.
And as a matter of fact, now we're going to be having video games that are directly tied into movies with not James Gunn's new DC universe. He's actually going to have movies and games that are part of the same story within the same universe.
Yeah, no, as exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting. I said it's an interesting medium that always like changes. And as I said, it's like it's like we have one side that goes with like, oh, this is doing good in the film industry, but it's like video games are like becoming the more popular form of media, mainly because you're more invested into playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that though, like I'm just like completely honored that it was able to happen, because like I didn't think I was in any chance like worthy of that. But like knowing that I had that opportunity, I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then once I got that job, I was like, alrighty,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be on my A game for this shit.
I can totally relate to that. Like if I was hired for something like that, I would be like, nope, I'm not having any friends anymore. I gotta focus on this. I gotta keep my life for this.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And actually, speaking about Jurassic Park, I find it really funny that that was one of your biggest inspirations growing up, because in the movie Babylon, have you seen it yet?
I need to see it. I know, I'll be honest, like that whole time in December, like I wanted to see Babylon, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason that's the selling point is like, besides obviously I have a huge love of like old school Hollywood. I know it's like why haven't you seen how like I haven't been? It's like you wouldn't believe how busy I am
Mm-hmm.
at
Yeah.
times. But like I should have went south, so I would to support it. But like during the whole Avatar thing, the amount of people that wanted to see Avatar with me was a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've seen that film a little too times just because it's like oh, I know Eric, and like we want to see this movie. Oh, I want to see the movie with Eric, and then see his credit, and then like he's right here, like sitting right next to me. Like that was like my December for about a while.
Yeah, I can imagine. As a matter of fact, our mutual friend told me that you invited him to a screening of the movie or something like that. But yeah, no, the only reason why I was bringing up Babylon is because within the same montage that I was telling you about, besides having a couple of scenes from T2 and Avatar, there's also a couple of scenes from Jurassic Park, the first one. And yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people have gained inspiration from that movie, especially whenever it comes to like visual effects and all of that. And Lord of the Rings, it's pretty funny that you mentioned that too, because I was watching an interview with James Cameron a couple of weeks ago, and he said that it was after watching the first Lord of the Rings and the work that was it in Industrial Lights and Magic. I don't know
It's
who.
it was Weta. It was Weta
Oh,
that did
okay.
that.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
after he saw the work that they did with Gollum, it was when he finally realized, hey, I'm making Avatar. Like we finally have the technology, the motion capture technology to bring Avatar to life.
No, that's true. Although I would say like you should take like go on the internet and see like the first like pilot,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because it's like it's like okay, but then again it was like if you showed that to like an executive during the 2006 at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because they have like a really weird like prototype of
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean it's kind of I wouldn't say clunky. It's just like it looks like a 2002 video game cinematic that they try to fit. And
I think I've seen it actually.
yeah, and that was the pitch for the Avatar. And it's like, if I saw that, I would not have green lighted that. We're like, what's going on? This does not make any sense. This is kind of weird because it's just a sequence where it's like Neytiri and Jake meet for the first time, and Shannon called him stupid because it was just like, and there's no like action or anything. It's just like that is the scene. like, I would be like, yeah, it's like imagine because it was like, oh, this is jaw dropping. It's like, man, like, I mean, seeing it now, I'm just like this is rough.
Yeah, especially the design, the yearly designs for the Navi. They look nothing compared to what they look now, and I'm really glad that they were able to evolve it into what they look like now, because it would have been like a really interesting movie if they looked like what they did in that proof in that concept video.
Yep. Well, it's even crazy. It's even crazier because like they had the studio there, so it's like I don't know, like it's interesting seeing what they originally looked like because like they were not like it's funny it's like over time they kind of got better looking,
Mm-hmm.
but like even like their original ones they were not like it's like if you saw I was like yeah this is what the Navi looked like, you'd be like it's like that's not going to sell. Nobody's gonna accept that. Nobody's gonna accept.
Yeah, actually, they kind of look like blue goblins from a movie I saw a long time ago. I can't even remember the name of it, but yeah, it was a movie with like European goblins and stuff like that. uh, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this interview. I don't want to take advantage of your time or anything like that, but it was definitely a pleasure having you here. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we finish this transmission of the episode?
Go see if you have not seen Avatar: The Way of Water, go see it, and then also when that trailer for Avatar: Way of Water 3 comes out, go see it, and
Yeah.
also give huge thanks to like all the visual effects guy, and not only to like it was super awesome to
Mm-hmm.
see like the most exciting moment of my life
Mm-hmm.
was watching the Oscars and seeing Richie grab the Oscar for best visual effects. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like officially it's like yes, I'm a VFX Academy Award winning artist on a team that won visual effects. Like I don't know, like I don't get an Academy Award or anything, but the point is that Richie got it, which means I worked under Richie's team
Mm-hmm.
for the best VFX.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, like go see the movie if you have not, and
Yeah, and if you guys can
I
see it on
like
3D, it's even better.
I highly recommend that as well too.
Yeah. Do you know by any chance if the movie's going to be released on Blu-ray 3D? Because I have 3D set up in my room. I love 3D. I'm a huge fan of 3D, and I'm really dying to know whether the movie's going to be released in 3D or not.
I have no clue on that. I would say I would like to say yes, just
Mm-hmm.
because of like the amount because like the amount of money that they spent.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another thing too. Like because with Cameron, I know we're getting off topic situation
Mm-hmm.
session. I don't know. Well, I was brain farting at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like that's another thing too. It's like he like for his 3D, like it's not about it pop. It's about the depth it provides.
Yeah.
So and like I would assume that like there was a push because I know that the film was supposed to be the hybrid. They were going to do some interesting technologies where they weren't going to require you to have 3D glasses,
Mm-hmm.
but the pandemic hit and theater chains kind of like I don't. Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like that. Like they couldn't move forward with that for any theaters, but I'm gonna say hopefully it does. I would assume so,
Mm-hmm.
but I have no clue what the future of the state is. But all I can say is that like I know Cameron and he will wants to basically keep making that like any of his projects super special in any way,
Mm-hmm.
and that 3D is gonna come back in some shape or form for that movie.
I really hope so. I really hope that's the case because I think Avatar: The Way of Water is actually one of those movies in which you lose, quote unquote, you lose part of the content if you don't see it on 3D. It's just like 3D adds so much to the richness of the environment and the world of Pandora, and even the emotional scenes. Like you feel like you're right there. It's almost like being in an actual theater, and it's something that you can't really get whenever it comes to 2D movies.
Yep, and then too, just like the water sequence in 3D is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it'll take like for a minute you're just gonna be like, oh, I'm in the ocean. Well, wait a second, I'm in the screen. Like some people have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I did have the post Pandora depression.
Yeah. But yeah. Another thing that I say is like also go to the like Hawaii and those like clear oceans because I swear like that's after some movies like I want to do that right now. So
Yeah. Well, once again, it was a pleasure having you here, man. I'm really looking forward for the third movie, and I'm really looking forward for the release of the second one on Blu-ray. But once again, go check out the movie. It's amazing, and Eric here got to work on it. They did an amazing job, and it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. So go ahead and watch it, and thank you for joining us today on this transmission. Hope to see you
nope.
again.
No problem. Like, thank you again, and it was an honor like talking to you, man. Which
No,
you
the
take
honor
it
was
easy.
mine. Yeah, you too, man.
It's take it easy. Ciao.
Bye.